went Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Totally fine.
Morning.
Good morning.
Totally, do you have where we left off?
Yes. We're on Lamed test, first Lamed Aleph. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 6 lines up from the bottom. The line begins with Havirin. So
Oh.
with Tana Shehu.
Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So that's Lamed Testament Aleph. That's 39a. We think Hashem that the able to learn Torah every day. We're supposed to be learning. We should have the base of English.
Amen.
Oh, it's Zion Adar. Yeah. Bill is reminding me it's Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. He didn't tell me it's his yahrzeit. He just said it's his birthday.
The opposite of Haman, so that's good.
The opposite of Haman, right? But I think there's something about that. It's specifically the yahrzeit. No. So the Gemara says, but he didn't know that it was also his birthday.
Hi guys, it's David.
Hey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's my
Fathers.
Abraham Chaim ben Moshe and Millie Bat Abraham birthday, not birthday, yahrzeit.
Yahrzeit. Is that your father and who else?
My father and his mother a few years
wow.
before.
Oh, on the same day. Okay.
Same
Shema
day,
Shabbat.
many years different. Thank you.
39. Towards the bottom of the page, like 6 lines from the bottom. So it says like this, Tana. So in the Brisa, Kishumaschal, talking about wrapping the what's called chulios. Yesterday we learned that there were 7 chulios or 13 chulios, right? But the way we were learning is that every chulio was 3 wraps around. It's not so clear. There's some machlekes about that, but whatever the case is, it says when you start to wrap around, maschal balavan. The first wrap, the first chulio has to be white. Because the reason for that is because it says in the pasuk hakanaf min kanaf. It says the corner, which means that the way the Gemara learns it is that it's supposed to be the same type as the corner. Now, just like the corner of the garment is usually white because the garment would be typically linen, so the string that you put on the corner was also white. That's the first one. Shemasayim. When you complete the last chulya, Messiah Balavan, you also do with Lavan. Now, the reason is, if you go from white to blue, so the blue would be a lesser holiness. Why is the white a higher holiness? Since the pasuk, Hillel is telling me, since the pasuk tells me that to start with the white, that means that the pasuk gives precedence to the white. So if you would finish with the tchelas, then that would be going down. So at the end, we have to finish with the white. You go back to, so it's blue, it's white, blue, white. Israeli flag. Is that why? The Israeli flag is blue because of the tchelas. There's blue in the Parsha. It says like this: Ma'alim Makedesh le'meridin. There's a new pshat in Ma'alim Makedesh that you go from the holy to the lesser holy to back to the holy. That I never heard. We've had Ma'alim Makedesh that you go up like you just keep going more and more. But here, You go down and then back up. That's the Rav Rabba Bar Bar Chana Tabi Yasvi. Rav and his cousin Rabba Bar Bar Chana, his cousin once removed, they were sitting. This fellow walks by. He has a garment that's entirely blue wool, and he has in it also blue wool in the tzitzis. Now, well, tchelta is also a word for tzitzis. And v'gadila migdal. He had his tzitzis were entirely woven all the way till the end. There was no anaf. The anaf is the strings that hang, and he just had the gadil. He just had the braided part, the part that's all wound up. Amar Rav. So Rav comments on this. Yoi glima v'la yoi tchelta. He has a nice talus, but he doesn't have nice tzitzis because he was supposed to leave. Remember, nice tzitzis meant 1/3 this and 2/3 that, right? Supposed to be hanging 2/3. So nice talus, but not nice tzitzis. Rabba Bar Bar Chana Amar Yoi glima v'yoi tchelta. Rabbi Bar Chana says, "Oh no, nice talus and nice tzitzis." The Gemara says, "What's the machlekes here, Rav and Rabbi Bar Bar Chana on their comments?" Rabbi Bar Bar Chana saver ksiv gedil ksiv psil. Rabbi Bar Chana says it says in the Torah that you're supposed to have gedil. That means the braided part. Ksiv psil, and also says that you have the psil, which is the thread. Oy gedil, oy psil. You could have it either way. You could have either you have the hanging, or you have the braided. And he had the braided. No, so you have a contradiction in the psukim. Usually, what happens when you have a contradiction in psukim is ad sheyavia kasav ashlishi. You get a third pasuk, and that's going to tell me the compromise of what's really happening. But we have this also by the Gemara talks about Yom Tif. One pasuk it says that it's Lashem. Another pasuk says it's Lachem. For Hashem, it's for you. So usually they say Chetzi Lachem and Chetzi Lachem. You have half and half. That's to mediate that contradiction. And then there's another opinion that says Oy Kula, no Kula Lashem or Kula. You have either one. So here, this opinion says either one. Rav Savar, Rav holds Leilam Silbinan. No, you need to have the threads. I Bahahi Gedilim Leminyanu Dasa. And the fact that it says Gedilim, that's just to tell me how many you need. Because every Gedil would be 2. Gedil Shnayim, a Gedil, which means the braid, that would be 2. Gedilim, when you have, it's the plural of 2, so then it's going to be 4. Is Arba. I say Gedil, Upasleim Mitaycha. You have to make a Gedil, which means the braided part. Upasleim Mitaycha, and then you have a Upasleim Mitaycha probably means that the thread that's used to wrap it is one of those 4. No, here we don't. This is an example. The 2 cases that one by Tzitzis where we have a contradiction, and then by Yom Tov we have a contradiction. We don't have a third pasuk. So how do you deal with it when you don't have a third pasuk? So you do either a combination, or you do either or. That's what Rab's opinion is. Rab's opinion is that you should have a little bit of thread. And Rabbi Baruch Chana says, no, it's not necessary because you can do either or also. It's different ways of learning the pasuk. Here's another pshat over here. Pasleo mitaycha means that you let the threads hang out on the bottom. Rashi has 2 pshatim. Amar Shmuel Mishmei de Levi. Shmuel says in the name of Levi. They were contemporaries, but nevertheless, Levi was older than Shmuel. It says Chutei Tzitzis Paichin Chutei Tzemer. I'm sorry. Chutei Tzemer Paichin B'Shel Pishtan. Getting into big sugi here. So this is going to take us a few pages. This sugi. You see, typically the tchelas is blue wool. Not just blue, but it's blue wool. Now, here Levi is saying, or Shmuel is saying in the name of Levi, that the white part is also allowed to be wool. Now, I know the white part could be wool, but let's say the garment is linen. So I know I'm allowed to have shatnez in tzitzis, right? That's machlekes bisham beisil, but according to beisil, you're allowed to have shatnez in tzitzis. Now, what about the part that's necessary to be shatnez would be the blue wool. The white part, the white strands are not necessary to be shatnez. You could have, you don't have to add, those don't have to be wool. Those could be linen in a linen garment. But Levi says that you can make it wool and you can put it in a linen garment. Unless you have cotton. The issue of shatnez. Shatnez would only be wool and linen. We don't have, you'll see, we don't have shatnez in our tzitzis thing. I don't remember there was a whole sugya when the Rajba, when the Rush came to Spain because he ran away from Germany after his teacher was imprisoned, the Maram Rottenberg. When he came to Spain, he had an argument with the Spanish rabbis about tchelas, about not about tchelas, about putting tzitzis in a linen tzitzis, I think in a woolen garment, or woolen tzitzis in a linen garment. He had a machlekes with them about this. Okay. So what we're saying over here is that even though we said that the white is supposed to be similar, is supposed to be the same color, the same material as the corner, he said hakanaf, but nevertheless, you don't need to do that. You can actually have woolen tzitzis in a linen garment. Doesn't have to be hakanaf, literally. Yibaylo. Yeshiva has a question. Shel pishtan. Mao shifteru b'shel tzemer. Let's say you have it the opposite. Let's say you have threads of linen and you want to put it into a woolen garment. We just said, Levi said, that you have tzitzis of wool, you want to put it into a linen garment. Let's say you have linen tzitzis and you want to put it into a woolen garment. So, tzemer b'shel pishtan hu depater. We said before that wool will exempt a linen garment. Kimin the tchelas pacha. If it works for tchelas, so lamanami pater. So it should work for the white as well. Aval pishtim b'tzemer light. But to do it the opposite, that we never said. To have linen, specifically linen tzitzis in a woolen garment, that we never said. There's no precedent for that. There's nothing in the tzitzis that needs to be linen. Oidilma, or maybe kimin the ksiv b'shatnez tzemer pishtim yachto. The pasuk says, "Do not wear shatnez," which is wool and linen together. And then right afterwards it says, "Gedilim taselacha." It says that you should have the fringes on the garment. You should make fringes. We know that the juxtaposition of not to wear shatnez right next to the tzitzis tells me that you're actually allowed to have shatnez in the tzitzis, and that would tell me, oh, you're allowed to have shatnez in the tzitzis. So then it should also work to have linen tzitzis in a woolen garment. It's a question. That's the yeshiva's question. Tashima, so come and listen. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rachva says the name of Rav Yehuda, one of the early Amiroim, student of Rav. Huti tzemer peichim b'shel pishtan, b'shel pishtan peichim b'shel tzemer. Exactly what we were looking for. He taught that threads of wool exempt a linen garment, and threads of linen exempt a woolen garment. Huti tzemer pishtim peichim b'chol makim, and you can have a combination of both. You have tchelas, is the wool, and you have the white, which is the linen. And you could use both of those in any garment. Even in a silk garment. Upliga de Rav Nachman, and this argues on Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Ashirayim Piturim min Tzitzis. Rav Nachman says that silk is pater from tzitzis. The talesim and in those old modern shuls, they would wear like a scarf, it wasn't only a reform, it was also like in the very modern Orthodox, they had like these thin talesim that they would, those were silk, those talesim. Remember the silk? Remember the thing? Bar mitzvah.
Using my uncle.
Yeah, some of our talesim have silk on the corner. We're going to learn later about the corner. The corner is going to come up in this again. If the talus is one, the corner is something else. You can see that strongly. Could be linen, yeah.
So
That's
if
what we had in the
he's correct, what's important is that it be woven, not that it be grown to use silk, right?
Tell me again, who's correct?
This physician that you just mentioned, who are we talking about, Rav Nachman?
Yeah, Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says that that in silk you don't actually need tzitzis in a silk garment. Yeah, this is going to be based on that the pasuk by Tzaras.
Mm-hmm.
It says if there's a beged semer, a beged pishtim, that a typical garment would only be wool or linen. Alter Rebbe, at least by Chabad, we're careful to have our tzitzis should be wool, right? Not to have cotton. Some chassidim they have cotton. The Alter Rebbe wants that the mitzvah deraisa, I think he holds as wool or linen. So we're careful to have wool tzitzis. Even the kids have wool tzitzis. So okay. Anyway, this would fit with Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says you have another material that's not wool or linen, and you're exempt from tzitzis. Eisvei Rav or Rav Nachman. Rav is a student of Rav Nachman. He asks him a question. He says Hashirayim. This is quoting a brisa. It says silk. Kalach. Shirayim is a more refined silk, and kalach is another type of silk, but it's more lesser quality. Basarikin is another type of silk made from leftover pieces. Kulam chayavim b'tzitzis. They're chayavim tzitzis. There goes that direct attack on Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman answers midrabanan. That's rabbinic. It's not biblical. Yachi. Question continues. If that's the case, you want to say it's the Rabbanan name of Sefer. Let's go further in the Brisa. It says V'kulan semer upishtim paicher behem. Wool and linen will exempt them. Now this becomes a problem. If it's chayiv and tzitzis deraisa, then we would understand why you can put shatnez in it. But if it's chayiv and tzitzis midrabanan, then how can you put shatnez into this to exempt it from tzitzis? Midaraisa doesn't need tzitzis. Midrabanan it needs tzitzis. So you're going to allow to violate a daraisa to fulfill the derabanan that it needs tzitzis. The Gemara explains. If you say that silk is chayiv and tzitzis, the mystery bukalayim. That's why you're allowed to put the wool and linen inside. But if you say that silk is only chayiv and derabanan, how are you allowed to put kalayim? Shatnez, kalayim, and shatnez is synonymous. How are you allowed to put kalayim, shatnez inside the garment just to satisfy a rabbinic law? You violate a biblical law. So, who said that we're putting shatnez in here? The way we read the brisa was semer upishtin paichemaisa, wool and linen exempted. We understood. We made an assumption that the wool would be the blue and the linen would be the white, and you put them both in the silk garment, and it's going to be pater. However, Rav Nachman comes along and answers. He says, "Ema, oit semer oit pishtim." We didn't say that you put both in. We said wool and linen exempted. That means if you want, you can do wool. If you want, you can do linen, but not both together. That would be shatnez. Yeah, you hear? Our whole question was based on an assumption that wasn't really accurate. It's also logical to say like this, because it also teaches hein b'minan paichim. Silk would exempt a silk garment. Shalai b'minan ein paichim, but silk, those shirayim, kelach, and surikin, would exempt a silk garment, but silk won't exempt a wool or linen garment. If you say that it's only chayiv in tzitzis derabanan, we're talking about silk, but minatayra it's exempt. Now we can understand why silk will exempt silk. Silk tzitzis in a silk garment would work because it's only derabanan. But if you say deraisa, temra pishtim with the pater, it needs to be wool and linen. Like this. But it shouldn't be a problem because even if it's chayim and derabanan, we say brachas and derabanan, right? Yeah, we say a bracha on it.
But is this whole discussion to Rabbanan about what the cloth can be made from?
The discussion is a machlekes. If silk is chayiv deraisa or chayiv derabanan, it's machlekes Rava and Rav Nachman. Nachman holds it's derabanan and Rava holds it's a deraisa.
But what I'm asking is the entire concept of the beged and what it can or cannot be, is that all the Rabbanan?
No, I think that's a biblical discussion. We'll see soon, based on psukim. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Gemara explains now. We think that it makes perfect sense that if it's chayiv midrabanan, so then it would make sense why you can use silk to pater it. The Gemara says imishimha like layirya. That's not a real proof. Rava. So another thing Rava says. Rava posed a contradiction. Ksiv hakanaf. One pasuk says that it should be the corner, which means that min kanaf. It means it has to be the same type as the garment. The tzitzis have to be the same material as the garment. Ksiv tzemro pishtim. It also says tzemro pishtim, wool and linen. Hakeitzad. How do you have that? So the Rav explains tzemro pishtim paichim be'minam min shleima minam. If you have wool and linen, then you can put that into any garment. Wool can work in wool, and wool can work in linen, and wool can work in cotton. Wool can work will pater silk, right? So in other words, the tzitzis that you buy in the store that you're going to put onto your garment, if you buy wool threads, that covers everything. The problem is shar minim. If you want to buy cotton tzitzis, silk tzitzis, those types of tzitzis, b'minam paichim, you have to find a garment that's silk, garment that's cotton to put exactly the same type in. Cotton tzitzis won't work in silk. It won't work in a wool garment. Wool will work in everything. So wool is like the O blood type, like well, that goes with any right, the universal donor.
You want to throw it mostly. That's what they say.
Yeah, I assume so. Okay, Rav Nachman, where did he get it from that he says that silk is pater min atayra, it's only chayiv midirabanan? He says Kedetan be Rabbi Shmuel, was taught in Tanan be Rabbi Shmuel. Tanan be Rabbi Shmuel, taught in the Brisa in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. Hayel v'nemra begadim b'teir stam. In the Torah it says the word beged. Why? It says Vasalem tzitzis al kanfei bigdayim. It says you should make tzitzis on the corners. However, when it comes to Nigayim, that's a Rashi learns by Taras, it says Tzemro Pishtim. So Afkal Tzemro Pishtim. Also, whenever it says, see by Taras, it says Bebeged Tzemer Oy Bebeged Pishtim. In a garment of wool or a garment of linen. It uses the modifier in the garment, wool and linen, which means that garment is either wool or linen. So he's learning that when it says beged by us, by tzitzis, it has to be the same beged that it said in other places in the Torah, which is either wool or linen. So that would be a support for Rav Nachman. Amar Abaya says, "V'hai tana de Rabbi Shmuel, mafka mi'idach tana." Now, the word mafka means to go out. It goes out from idach tana de Rabbi Shmuel. It goes out from a different tana de Rabbi Shmuel, which could mean that he argues on another Tana Rabbi Shmuel. So we're saying over here that tzitzis needs to be, the garment of the tzitzis needs to be wool or linen. And we quoted a Tana Rabbi Shmuel that learns it from Tzaras. That's the way Rashi says. It's Tzaras. I think Taisus has another source for that. But Abaya says that actually argues with a different Tana Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana Rabbi Shmuel was taught in another yeshiva, another source that was taught by Rabbi Shmuel. It says beged. It says in the Torah by the word beged, ainly ela beged semer. I would only know that it's wool. How do I know? This is talking about Tzaras. How do I know that it would also apply to other types of material? Tzemer gemalim is camel wool. I think that's called cashmere. Or rabbit wool. I don't know what that's called.
Lucky.
What is it called?
Lucky.
Lucky?
Lucky. Like
Lucky.
like a rabbit.
Okay. The typical wool is from sheep, right? Typical. There's other types of wool which aren't considered wool.
Professor prefers the alpaca.
Oh, yes. Or feathers of it's called feathers. It means the hairs of a goat, or types of silk. How do we know that those are also a beged? Talmud Laimar, I beged. Says the word I. There's different ways of understanding what's happening here. One of the ways of understanding this is that we say that how could one time the Rabbi Shmuel say that a garment needs to be tzemer? We have another time the Rabbi Shmuel that says that it could mean other things as well. So it's a contradiction in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, and we leave it at that. One interpretation there. Yeah. I thought the first time I read this Gemara, I thought the pshat was that Haytan de Rabbi Shmuel mapka meidach tana, that it derived it from the other one, and it derived it from it because over here it says the word oi. The oi is an inclusion, so a typical beged is really only wool or linen. You use the word oi, then you're including more. But you don't have the word oi, then you're not. So it's not a contradiction. It's actually bringing a proof. So I thought mapka meant, but I looked in the commentaries. No one likes my pshat. Okay.
But how does the word beged help us at all? Isn't the translation of beged garment?
However,
It could be made out of any of these things.
However, when we look in the Torah and we find the word beged, we find it associated with wool or linen, which means that in the Torah, a beged means a wool garment or a linen garment.
Okay.
That's Rav Nachman's. We have it by Tzaras. It says the word beged and it specifies wool or linen. It tells me that that's what the translation of beged is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tanu Rabbanan, the famous machlekes here, Bisham and Bisilon. Tanu Rabbanan Sadim Betzitzis. Yeah, you'll come across this Gemara in other places in Shabbos. Sadim Betzitzis. A sadim means a linen sheet, linen garment. Is it chayiv in tzitzis or not? You have to put tzitzis on a sadim, on a linen garment. Bishamai Paitrin, Bisil Mechayvin. Bishamai says it's pater, Bisil says it's chayiv. Rashi points out that the word pater that Bishamai says is actually could be not so accurate, because he really wants to say that it's usser. Because how are you supposed to put once you say that linen doesn't require, according to Beis Shammai, linen, basically what Beis Shammai is doing is, Beis Shammai is saying is that you can't allow shatnez and tzitzis. That whole discussion that we have the juxtaposition of shatnez to tzitzis, and therefore it's allowed. Shammai doesn't have that. Beis Shammai doesn't have that. So therefore, you can't have wool inside the tzitzis. You can't put the tchelas inside. So over here, when it says Beis Shammai paichim, it should really say Beis Shammai oisrin. Beis Shammai prohibit. But he says it doesn't do that for whatever reason. But it could be that oisrin would have been more accurate. However, Rashi then explains that the word paitrin is actually specific because Beis Shammai also holds that the prohibition of shatnez is not to have a sweater of shatnez that's in your drawer. The prohibition of shatnez is only to take that sweater and to wear it, right? The prohibition, the mitzvah of tzitzis, is not just to wear the tzitzis, but even if you have a garment sitting in your drawer, in your dresser, that has four corners, Beis Shammai holds that it's a chayvas beged. It's not a chayvas gavra. Chayvas beged, it's an obligation on the garment, not an obligation on the person. So therefore, you have to say the word pater, because if you would say aser, then that garment that's sitting in your drawer would not require tzitzis. But the truth is that if it would be the oiser would mean that you're not allowed to wear it. But here it's chayiv and tzitzis. It could be chayiv and tzitzis even without wearing it. So you have to say no, it's pater. It's exempt from tzitzis, even if it's in the drawer. Right? You don't violate the shatnez unless you wear it. You'll fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzis by just putting the tzitzis on and keeping it in your drawer, according to this. We don't hold like that. We hold that only if you wear it, you're chayiv and tzitzis.
I thought we're not.
No. What do you mean?
Like we get our stuff checked if it's.
No, you're allowed to own shatnez. Yeah. You're not allowed to wear it. You're allowed to own it. Right? So Sodom b'tzil b'shami paichim b'sil machayven. B'sil says that no, a linen garment is chayv and tzitzis. V'alacha k'diver b'sil. The halacha follows b'sil. That is chayv and tzitzis. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok says, Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok is son of Rabbi Tzadok, was the one that fasted for 40 years. His father had a lot of doctors that were healing him. He says like this, in Yerushalayim, anyone that put tzitzis inside a linen garment, it was like an astonishment. So what's he doing? Why is he putting it? Rashi says that he's arguing on Beis Hillel. That's Rashi's first pshat. Then Rashi has a Lishna Achrina. Later on in the Rashis, he says Rabbi Elazar is actually arguing on Beis Shammai. How could he be arguing on Beis Shammai? He says that anyone that puts tchelas inside their linen garment is astonishment or shocking. That's what Beis Shammai held, that it's pater. Says no. Ein element of matmiyim, Rashi says in the second pshat, he says, you see, it's not a prohibition. It's just something surprising, but it's not a prohibition. According to Beis Shammai, it should be even a prohibition. But we see that it's just an astonishment, so that means that it's not such a problem. It's just surprising. Okay, whatever the case is, that's Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok's opinion. Amar Rebbe says, Im kain lama asrua. If the halacha is like Beis Hillel, halacha is like Beis Hillel that says that you're allowed to put, you're not only allowed, but you're supposed to put tzitzis inside the linen garment. So why in Yerushalayim did they not do that? Because they're not experts. What does that mean? They're not experts. If they would see someone walking around with shatnez, they would say that shatnez is mutter. What do you mean? I saw Rabbi so and so doing that. I saw you don't have to check for shatnez. I see the so and so had a woolen garment, and they wouldn't realize that this is a special din by tzitzis. They would think that we don't check for shatnez. I saw so and so doing that. They weren't an expert. They weren't able to decide to see the difference, to distinguish. Amalei Rava bar Rav Chana l'Rava. Rava bar Rav Chana says to Rava, "V'lirma beyasara b'nafkel shukim b'farsim milsa." What's the problem? Take 10 people, let them all put tzitzis on that's made out of linen, and put wool tzitzis in it. Let them go to the marketplace, and everyone will see that tzitzis is it's different. It says kolshkein the mitam levan. Well, you're making it worse. Now they're going to have 10 people is worse than one person. Everyone's going to think that kalayim is mutter. It says, but religious should be pirkas. So what's the problem? In the drasha on Shabbos, the rabbi speaks. He's gonna announce that it's a special din for tzitzis, and it's for other things it's usher. This is gzeir mishum kala ilan. Now we have a decree that maybe why is shatnez allowed in tzitzis? Because you're using the right material, you're using the right color. It's only mutter because it's tchelas. But let's say you don't have the right tchelas. Let's say you're using not the yeshiva university tchelas, using some other tchelas, and which is really not acceptable. It's not the right one. So now you're not yet to the mitzvah. Now you have regular shatnez.
Indigo.
Kala ilan is indigo. Yeah, Kala ilan is a color, a blue color that comes from a vegetable source, as opposed to chelas, which comes from a snail or something. The Gemara asks, what's the problem if it's kala ilan? Big deal. So it's okay. So it's not chelas, but at least it's the white part. And the white part is also tzitzis. You ate to the mitzvah tzitzis with the white. Okay, you got the wrong blue. So okay, so it's not the chelas, but it's blue would be fine if it's considered like white. Gemara says no. Kivan defsher b'minam. Since the white part of the tzitzis is possible to have silk, not silk. It's possible to be linen. You don't need shatnez. It's only the tchelas that needs to be shatnez. But you don't have tchelas. You only have the white, which you're allowed to put in. But 1 second. But when do we say yasei is deichalaisa, say that the positive mitzvah of tzitzis pushes off the negative prohibition of shatnez? That's only when it's impossible to do it any other way. But if you're able to do it another way, then you can't. Then you're not allowed to use it. The Reish Lakish, Reish Lakish says whenever you have a positive and a negative, you're able to fulfill both of them, which we are able to do here. You can fulfill both, get linen white strands and put it in the linen garment. But if you're not able to, for example, by the tchelas, then so it's only the tchelas that pushes off the prohibition of shatnez, not the white. And since it's possible that you don't have the right tchelas, so therefore we don't want to darshan and tell everyone that it's mutter because they might have the wrong. They might get the wrong tchelas.
Yeah, but how can we say that the wrong blue is just like white? Didn't we have this whole thing that white is higher than blue, that it had to be white? So like it have pink tzitzis, is it considered like white?
Yeah.
Any color?
Taisvis may be discussing your question. He asks it a little different. He says that Rebbe held that the tchelas is ma'akev alavan. That means that if you have a garment of blue, you had to put blue inside. You weren't allowed to blue first, right? That to be the same color. And now you're telling me that it doesn't matter.
Is it any blue or just snail blue?
The snail blue.
Any blue though?
No, it means if you had the snail blue, then you. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Hillel's gonna do it for homework. Two-page essay tomorrow.
Okay, so now the Gemara says, "V'liv the K." Why don't we check all of the people that are selling wool, or all the people that are dyeing wool? We'll check all the wool. We'll see if it's which one it is. There is a way of checking. The Kala Ilan doesn't come out. I think the Tchelis does come out. What does it say over here? How would they check it? They don't say over here how they check it. There's a way of checking it. Just 1 second. I remember seeing someone said how they would check it. Is that what it says? They did a chemical test. What was the chemical?
It's
Okay,
like a
so the
mix
Gemara
of different things.
says, I'm sorry?
It's a mix of different things to put together.
And then it would
And
come out if it
come
was
out.
Chelas, right?
If it was
Which one would
the wrong one, if it was Kala Ilan, it
Kal
would,
Ilan would come out?
yeah, I think it's a little bit later in the Gemara.
Okay. Elexera Mishum Te'ima. The Gemara says that we have a concern when we don't want to tell everyone to check it because we have a concern that when you check the color, you have to put it into a little vial, a little thing, and then you check it. Now, it's supposed to be done lishma, and when the part that got checked is actually puzzle for tzitzis because that part you made that wool that you were coloring is actually puzzle. That wasn't done for the sake of tzitzis. That was done just to check. We have a concern that maybe you're going to take that dye and put it back into the pot, and then you're going to ruin the color. So the Gemara says, "V'lichtava adiska." Why don't they write a diske? Diske means like a letter. Why don't they send a letter out telling everyone that they should check it, but they shouldn't pour it back in? The Gemara says, "A diske of lekam lismach." You think we're going to rely on this letter? No, people aren't going to follow the letter. Rava says, "Hashta chametz bepesach, b'yom kippurim dekaris." How do we let everyone know when it's the Yom Tov, when it's the time? It's the Samchin and Adiske. We would send out a letter and we would let them know that the Beis Din added a leap year or something, and it would turn out that major halachic decisions were based on this letter that would go out. The Gemara says, "Hacha da'asei ba'alma, hacha da'asei ba'alma lekolshkein." If you're relying on it for chametz on Pesach and on Yom Kippur, relying on the letter, so for sure we should rely on it for a more lenient thing. Elama Rava, so rather Rava says, "Hamil sa'amri v'itmar ma'arav mishum derab zera kavasi." Hamil sa'amri. This matter I've said, and also it was taught in the Eretz Yisrael in the name of Rab Zera, just like me. Problem is, shamayikr sadinim b'teich shalish. Perhaps there's going to be a tear in his garment within three fingers from the edge of the garment. Be it bereno. What he's going to do is he's going to sew it up with linen, and then he's going to let the strings of the stitches hang out. Those strings that are hanging out, he's going to use for tzitzis, and then he's going to combine with it also tchelas. V'atayra amra tasa v'lay mina asay. Let me take a look at the article, and I want to see how they say over here that they were concerned that someone's cloak would tear within 3 finger breadths of the corner, which that's the place where you put in the tzitzis. You're supposed to put in the tzitzis within 3 finger breadths from the corner. It's not supposed to be higher up on the tzitzis. Then, so it would tear there. Then he would sew it with linen threads, and then leave the ends of the threads hanging from the corner to serve as white tzitzis threads. Instead of using special threads, which would for tzitzis, he would just rely on the dangling threads that were from the tailor. Then he would add tchelis threads, so that his tzitzis would be composed partly of tchelis affixed for the sake of mitzvah, and partly for white linen threads that were initially affixed for another purpose. And the Torah says, "Tasav alei mina asay." which means that the white threads that were initially used to mend the garment are therefore not valid as tzitzis. And the garment doesn't have 4 valid tzitzis threads. The mitzvah is not fulfilled. The tchelis threads is regular shatnez, and there's no mitzvah there. Because of this concern, they said that you don't put tchelis in linen garments. You hear this complicated concern? What about in a wool garment? Maybe he's going to sew it up with linen and then let it hang down. He said he would never do that. He would never sew it with linen because he knows that it's shatnez. He may sew it with wool and then designate linen tzitzis. That would be a different story. Okay. The Gemara now says that Shara Reb Zera l'Sadine. Reb Zera removed the tzitzis from his linen garment. You had a concern that maybe it would tear. Because after, this is what Rava said, that Reb Zera says about what I say. Now he's saying that that we see this by what Reb Zera did. Reb Zera also says that Gezerah Mishum Ksus Laila. Now, tzitzis is only an obligation by day. And there's a concern that a person may take his shatnez tzitzis. If he wears them by day, so he's fulfilling the mitzvah. If he wears it by night, so then he's not fulfilling the mitzvah. So he just has regular shatnez in his tzitzis. Now there's a machlekes over here. What's pshat ksus laila? Does ksus laila mean that he's wearing it by night, or does ksus laila mean pajamas? Doesn't matter when he wears it. Night clothing, ksus laila, night clothing, or clothing worn at night. Yeah, it's a machlekes, I think Rashi and Taisvus here. Okay, let's leave it over here. So holding by V'amar Rava. Yeah, we're up to the corners, the part about the different corners in the garment. Okay. See what that is? It's like 6 lines, 7 lines from the top. On Mem Amud Beis. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.
Oh, David, I see you sent us some messages. Very nice. David sent us messages about the blue. Blue resembles the sky. Dual nature. Where are you taking this from? Are you writing this, or is this a
No, it's just from AI.
AI? Oh, they know everything.
Well, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay. Okay. Have a good day. Okay.